Welcome home. We are WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively getting the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. It is that time again. We've had a little bit of a downtime. I was down in Ocean City at Mako doing a whole bunch of political stuff, business stuff, future Maryland stuff. All of it brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery, at the Gold Rush Sevens doublers. I'm wearing my Fadley shirt. We're going to be at Fadley's on the 23rd, back again on the 6th of September. We are kicking off 26 years. I got to get rid of this 25th cupcake. I'm getting a 26th oyster and crab. 26 years at WNST. We're going to do 26 oysters in 26 days, 26 ways all along the bay. And that starts on September 5th when we go to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions are keeping our water clean, making sure your water is clean, and supporting our oyster tour and our friends at the Oyster Recovery Partnership that are helping clean the bay up. So we're talking about that, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multicare, getting Luke to Camden Yards and out to Owings Mills as we get ready for the kind of September and October we haven't had around here. My man Ed Miller from Classic 5 Golf is about to join us here. He's Old Line Baltimore. We'll get to golf in a minute, right? We can get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
FedEx and your leagues and all of that stuff. But you're an Oriole and Raven guy, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, you golf with people all day, and there's golf people in there every day. I'm sure 5 years ago, nobody's got an Oriole hat on. Now everybody looks like Rick Dempsey. We got the
Yep.
Lamar thing going on. The Ravens are Ravens. I have never smelled sports, and I've been doing this 33 years, every day of my life, as a bartender for, you're a golf pro. I was sort of a sports pro, like helping people,
Yeah.
get through after losses and understand trades and like all of that. I've never seen more enthusiasm, but also hope that like one of these teams might win a championship here in the next couple months. That's a good feeling, and I think it probably brings people out on the golf course talking about it all day too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can definitely, it's funny you say that about the wardrobes, but I have absolutely seen a ton of Oriole golf shirts this year and starting to see some of the purple come out now as everybody's starting to get ready. And like you said, it's a great time to be a Baltimorean. We got two teams that hopefully can make it through the promised land and maybe hoist a big trophy at the end of the year. Absolutely exciting.
Well, that's one thing that I guess I caught on to this early on. I've never told this story, so this is a good one. Back when I was a young reporter, and I encourage you and everyone else to go watch the documentary I'll be pimping in the next couple of weeks that came out a few months ago. But I covered ice hockey early in I was 16, 17, 18 covering the
Mhm.
Skipjacks and then the Capitals in the mid 80s. So red, white, and blue Capitals. And I remember going down to their games and all of those guys played golf. I'd never really spent a whole lot of time around baseball players or heard them so much talking more golf than fishing in the case
Mhm.
of baseball players. Every hockey player golfed. And that was their thing. And then I got to be old enough that there was this golf tournament and that golf tournament. Because it used to be banquets back in the 70s, right? It wasn't golf tournaments as much, but then
Mhm.
the golf tournaments catch on. And then you find out that as a sports guy, I threw a lot of golf tournaments for charity for Ed Block. We held them out in Carroll County 30 years ago. John Buren would come out and we put us on the news and like all that. But like the amount of athletes that connect through golf and someone like you, I would say to you, all right, come on, man. Give me a list of Orioles, Colts, celebs, blast players that you've golfed with or been a part of a charity golf effort. And I could probably go on all day just with my own golf tournaments as to how many John Ogden types and Rod Woodson types love golf.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a neat list, and it's not everybody. It's funny you mentioned Ogden, but I've actually met Ogden at the golf course, and he doesn't actually fit the bill of a typical golfer at 6'8", 6'9", 300 some pounds. But it is pretty wild to see some of these athletes come out and play, and it's no offense to Mr. Ogden, but not necessarily the greatest golfer in the world. Not that he's built for it, but it is neat to see these guys be able to maybe channel some of their competitive spirit down another sport and a little bit more relaxing than the sport that they're used to. Absolutely.
You'd flip if you saw me holding the golf club, right? You think would it be unusual? Would
It,
that make
there's good possibility, but like I said, it's not worse than some of these other athletes that I've seen. But we would just be able to tell your experience level, Nestor. That's all. We'd say, okay, maybe he's not playing as much golf as he should be.
Well, I would say to you that I once hit a tee shot on 17 down in Ponte Vedra, up onto the green
All
about
right.
6 feet from the cup. So I did that once in my life. And at that point, it was like when I beat Danny Wiseman bowling, I just dropped the club. I said, that's it. But you've been picking the clubs up. I mean, you've been a pro at several Classic 5. Look, what would you say about Classic 5 this time of year for all the courses, not just yours?
Mhm.
But the one thing I've noticed, and earlier in the week, and this might be last week if you're listening, but we saw that break in weather, and somebody put a really
Mhm.
funny meme up about the 10 seasons in Baltimore and called this fake fall.
Yeah. That's actually
um,
that's very true.
yeah, I would think this is the time of year that if you can't bear the heat, you're a little older or crankier or whatever, or if you're trying to learn the game and not out there just dying in the
Yeah.
middle of trying to learn the game soaked, that this is a great time of the year to pick up the club as you move into this and probably a little bit more space and all of those things that you guys always talk about to say we say re-engagement of people to fall in love with the game again.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Now this time of year is ironically this is usually the best time of year as far as like you say the weather. The golf courses start to get prettier as the trees will eventually start changing colors. But this is also a great time. The courses usually because you're coming off of a couple months of summer, the courses do some wear and tear. But as they start to finish the golf season, this is usually the best condition that the golf courses will be in come end of September. It becomes a great time of year for that. And honestly, most of the golfers, it's ironic, but this is about the time they start playing their best golf. They've had all summer to practice, play. And that's the irony of Baltimore golf. We get into the fall here. We're not quite there yet, but as we're getting there, your golf game's as good as it's been all year. Everything is starting to round into form, so to speak. And best time to go out and play. So, and then like you said, you throw in the sports right now with the Orioles and the Ravens. It's great to go out and play, hang out with your friends for 4 hours and be able to talk sports for two or three of them and just hang out with the guys or the gals. Good time of year for sure.
Now, where's your favorite Classic 5 course? This is not a trick question.
My favorite one, Pine Ridge.
Well, I mean,
No, they're all
I
great.
I remember
Yeah,
when Mount Pleasant was your I just wanna make sure,
yeah,
like, it's kinda like saying old school, new school, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
I would say for your course specifically, and it's kinda what I led into, is that you have some extra things that
Mhm.
could take a first-time golfer and maybe make it more enjoyable, especially, I live in a Towson area, I mean, you're, like, 5 minutes from downtown town, like, it's really amazing how quickly
Yeah,
you get there and also how far away you feel when you're at Pine Ridge.
yeah, absolutely. It's neat you say that, but we are close enough to everything. Heck, can get to the stadium in less than 30 minutes. Come play some golf in the morning, go to the Oriole game or Raven game later. But yeah, convenience wise, we're close enough to where you can reach every activity, but we're still far enough in the country where it's scenic, it's beautiful. We got the wildlife, the nature. It's obviously a great place to come hang out. And like you said, we still got tons of golf lessons going at the Baltimore Golf Academy. Uh, just because it's starting to get toward the end of summer and into fall does not mean it's too late to start working on the game. And as we get into winter, we will have some indoor places to practice and learn as well. So
All right, so I'm
all
gonna.
year sport.
I went and took a lesson, and I've told. Maybe I've told you this story. I know I've told Richard this story.
Mhm.
I took my first lesson from Norm Vikoski down at
Yeah.
Furnace Creek Golf, and it was in the '90s. It was right after Greg Norman blew the Masters,
96.
96,
Yep.
96. Okay.
Yep.
So that's when it was. And I went down. The first thing is I held, see, I have these, the old school Bic pens. So I'm going to use this. I probably could use my, I'm going to use my Raskin Global crab claws, what I'm going to do. And I picked up the golf club like a baseball bat and held it over my shoulder, kind of like Roberto Clemente would have. And I had to get the fingers right and get the thumb right and get the grip right and get the arms out right. So I learned all of this stuff. I learned all of this. I want to say he taught me parts of it like out actually,
Uh-huh.
somewhere where I could chip a ball. And then the rest of it kind of happened like beat the hell out of the ball in the range and, give me a one, a
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
a five, a wood, but learning different clubs, what I was going to do with woods and irons, the difference, a putter. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't know a lot for not knowing a lot and being on the radio, and everybody's like, learn golf, it'll improve your business life and like all that stuff. So I went to learn. When you take an adult or a child at this point, specifically at Pine Ridge, because I've been up there, I've seen how Gucci, all that simulator
Uh,
outside. Like, where would you start somebody now? Because it would feel to me, and maybe I'm like, I think my wife left for work. She's gone. I can talk bad about her. Here. So
okay.
well, I met my wife 21 years ago. She told me she like her previous boyfriend had golfed a little bit. Showed me she had golfed a little bit, and I took her to the range, and she just like she just could. It would have been a really long day. Like she would need
Uh,
lessons, right?
yeah.
But of the two of us, you would be way more apt to make her a golfaholic. She has that personality about competing, and once she goes all in, and whether it's feeding birds or hiking, she really like gets
All
into
in.
it, right? So if she fell in love with it because you made her good at it and she had the right girlfriend or the right, she could be a candidate. If she got retired and bored, oh man,
Hmm.
she likes outside, she likes competition, she likes golf. She sits
Uh,
and watches golf. So she would need you. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like she's not
yeah.
any
Yeah.
good at it. She hasn't picked it up, but she would want to play it. She would be really interested, maybe even more so than tennis, right? So,
Uh,
what would you do with my 52-year-old, beautiful, put back together, strong on a yoga mat, buff,
mm.
not the back problem that I have. She would not have any problem swinging a club full on. Where would you take her first?
Well, I personally like to make sure at the very beginning that a new golfer gets a little bit of a taste of the golf course. So we might start someplace on the golf course, but maybe in generally something easier, like from the green backwards, working on some putting and chipping. But I like my newer golfers to at least get out there and experience the golf course a little bit, understand what they're getting into. I don't want them to think that golf is nothing but practice. Obviously, we would go over some of the fundamentals to make sure she can hold the club right, basic form and stuff like that. But the goal would be get her on the golf course as soon as possible.
Dude,
Let her
holding
see.
the club right for me took 4
Uh,
lessons because I wanted to
yeah.
bend my arm like a baseball
Uh,
player. I could not get my arms around after swinging a baseball bat and a tennis
man.
racket every day of my life, dude. Like I
Yeah.
was very good baseball, tennis player, eye hand, all of that. I would always say flippantly, the ball doesn't move. I mean, so like
Yeah.
the ball doesn't move. How hard can this be? I've been
Yeah.
hitting a
Right.
moving ball while I've been moving in tennis forever,
Yeah.
trying to judge angles. The only angle is me, the club, my body, the right,
Yeah.
hitting it flush like you want to do with a baseball bat, like you want to do with a tennis racket, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
centering, all of these things, they launch angle, this fancy schmancy baseball stuff and all that. But for me, form was everything. Where your hips are and where
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
eye, keeping your eyes down and where you want your head. But more than anything, dude, it took me forever to cure arms in, arms out, arms locked. Like it
Uh,
took me months just to not shank balls because I was jamming my arm like like a baseball player, honestly, because I had
yeah.
that motion of a baseball so many times. I don't know how you unlearn that.
Yeah. Well, the neat thing is about modern technology and using some video. I don't like to use a ton of it, depending on where the student is, but there's actually much more similarities in a baseball swing and a golf swing. Maybe a different plane, so to speak, on which the bat versus
And
the
a hockey
club.
slap shot.
Yeah, and a hockey slap shot. Actually, I got me a retired Montreal Canadian who plays golf at the golf course on the weekends, and
Hey, how about
funky
some old
swing, but he
field
hits
hockey
it.
girls? How about field hockey
Yeah, yeah,
girls?
that too, absolutely.
Yeah, any
So,
girl ever played field hockey would love
yeah,
golf, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think honestly, like in the goal is normally I remember being taught this myself when I was younger, but if I can get you to start hitting a couple of good shots the first time, the better that golf ball flies and the further it flies, the easier it becomes for you to listen and go ahead and make a change. Another reason why I try to get you on the golf course as soon as possible to get some success, whether it's the putting, the chipping. But once you start hitting one or two good shots, it gets easier to go ahead and make a change and to listen. And plus, I learned myself back in the day, and I would say that we have better teaching equipment, better things to help you along now than we did 30 years ago. I got stuff that will help you grip the club right every single time.
Dude,
Stuff like that.
I took those clubs out, and I think I might have bought them at like a garage sale. Like literally, they were Wilson clubs, the right, and I took them out, and they may have been from the 70s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But if I were being funny, I would say they were total Fred Flintstone. You know, they
Yep.
like were like rocks. You know,
Yeah.
I took them out there, and now like in the modern era, I remember Hennessy did a trade here 30 years ago and got me like serious graphite BS, you know, bang,
Yeah,
you know, some Callaway bang, you know, and
yeah, yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, it made me feel like I had more lead in my pencil. You know, Ed Miller's here. Classic Five Golf is all around the Beltway, all the locations. Let me see off the top of my head. Let's go. Carroll Park, Mount Pleasant, Clifton Park, Pine Ridge, and hold on, missing one. What am I missing?
Forest Park.
God,
Yeah,
RJ's gonna
yeah.
kill me now.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Oh no. But Ed's up at Pine Ridge. You know, anything else tell people about coming out and playing, affordability, you know, daylight, I mean, just general things because the weather really's been beautiful. And I know it's
Oh,
gonna go to hell by the time people hear this week from now. It'll be 94 again, fake fall. But when the weather does get nice, there is something about like if you think you like golf or want to go back
oh,
or
yeah.
have ever played, it's nice to be on a golf course when fall happens, man.
Absolutely. And the fact is, most people don't appreciate the size of a golf course, but you're talking 140 to 200 acres plus. How many baseball stadiums and football stadiums you can actually fit on a golf course is mind blowing. So once you get out there, like I said, it's escape from the world, escape from work, whatever it is, 4 hours with your friends. You can't beat it. You
My
just
wife
can't
went
beat it.
out there, she would tell you to shove that cart. She's like, "I'm walking. I'm walking." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The caddy, give me the clubs. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, you know, so you know, I guess for people to come out and have that kind of an experience, have a day out with y'all and learn a little bit. You got a lot of
Yeah.
kids out there learning too, right? And they're going back to
Oh,
school.
absolutely. I guess that's a love or hate relationship, but they're all going to be gone soon. But yes, 30 kids at camp, been running them all summer, kids all day out there. It's kind of a bummer for them, but yeah, next week they're going to school. I've seen a lot of kids actually this past couple of weeks, I guess, getting it in before school starts back up. But another great sport for your kids to learn. Get them out
All
of the
right,
house for
so
three
hang
hours,
on. I,
4 hours.
I want you to single out a kid. You can give me their real name, first name, or
Mhm.
fake name, and tell me about a kid that came earlier in the summer that couldn't play and now can play a little bit. Because we all had that summer as kids where you know, I just told you the story with Norm. I went from not being able
Yep.
to hold the club to being able to really swing well enough to really shock the hell out of Drew Forrester and Casey Willett and Ray Bachman when I was down in Jacksonville and I put the ball up on the green. They're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, I've swung a lot of golf clubs. I mean, so like,
Yep.
you know, and I've played charity too. I've done all of that. But for, you know, I guess anybody to get out there and be a part of this and hit it really
Mhm.
good, like you said, that look in your eye you get
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
hit it really good, right? There is something magical about that.
Absolutely.
You feel like Gunnar Henderson winning $500
Yeah.
for a lottery winner.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I say two things. Number one, first, it's neat you bring up Norm. Actually, that was my first boss in the golf business back in the late '80s. I worked for Norm, so I always think that's pretty cool. And I saw Norm about a month ago, so Norm's still doing pretty
Well, there
well.
you
So it's
go,
like,
man. That makes
yeah,
me an OG then, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, all right.
absolutely. And
Nice. I
we
love
got a
that.
yeah, yeah, and we got a handful of kids. I would say like one is a kid named Briggs. I think he's 11 or 12 years old. First time touching the club back in the end of June at one of the camps. And now here we are just 3.5 months later, and Briggs gets dropped off at the course with another friend. They play golf probably 2 days a week, but they're hanging out, practicing, putting, chipping. It's kind of neat. It's almost like their country club. I get to see them come in after a couple hours of practice, and they'll get their ice cream and their drinks and hang out. And it brings me back to when I was that age, and it's worst things that you can be doing at 12, 13 years old than to hang out at the golf course, learn some golf. And now it's funny, like I said, new to golf in June, but I know they got a couple years away, but they're already talking about trying to play competitive golf next year, start getting ready for high school golf in a couple years. So that part is definitely you like to see that part. So
Well, that's what you're there
always nice.
for, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
absolutely.
at the end of it, you make a living, you have fun, but then
Yeah.
your measurement is the measurement of your students, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've always joked that's the neat thing about golf. I am technically in the business of fun. Well, I'm not out there trying to save a life. Might be trying to save you a couple golf balls by improving your game, but I'm out there in the business of fun. There's nothing there's nothing to overstress about. We're out there to escape life, have some fun, get better at golf, and enjoy everybody's company. So awesome business to be in for sure.
Look, man, we only get together every couple,
Mm,
months. This FedEx Cup, give me the inside golf thing for everybody out there that loves and is watching.
mhm.
And there's lots of people all summer long. This live live thing. I had John Feinstein on 2
Yep.
weeks ago. We did a big thing about golf and blood money and journalism
Hmm.
and all of that stuff. But the interest level above and beyond kids playing and people going out and having a good day or
Hmm.
doing business, playing golf, the actual part of being a fan of golf, it's been so weirdly fractured.
Yeah,
Sports is
yeah.
funny like that. I mean, say the same thing about college sports with the NIL, right?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
when things pass, or boxing, horse racing, when people stop, but the golf thing, people are still into it, but it is a little fractured. It's been weird.
Absolutely. Absolutely been a little bit fractured. And I think they tried to streamline the FedEx Cup playoffs this year. They took it from 4 events down to 3. Um, it's still doing really well. Obviously, I follow the tour all the time, and I think one of the answers they've had, and it's brought back some of the attention from the bigger golfers, but they've made the playoffs worth so much money. It's one of the ways to compete against that blood money. At the end of the playoffs, the winner's going to get an additional $25 million for winning the FedEx Cup playoffs. Uh, you throw that into with the extra perks of the what the PGA Tour is calling their 8 signified events for next year. You actually have to qualify for the second part of the playoffs to be eligible for that for next year, and all those purses are increased 20 million plus, purses on it. And it's a shame that, like you said, golf is a little fractured this year, and I think it's taken away a little bit. But we've had an American golfer, Scotty Scheffler, is having one of the better years. I mean, comparable to an early 2000s Tiger Woods year. And I know I watch it, and I follow it, and a lot of my regular golfers are talking about it. But there is still, there's some that will detach from that and say, oh, well, there's some golfers that aren't playing in the field, so maybe Scotty's year is not as good. And I find that a shame. Scotty's playing pretty awesome, and
Well, the
you know,
Olympics also really,
yeah.
for a day or two, it brought golf. I mean, it brought everything. My wife was addicted to it, watching it
Hmm.
all day, every day from
Yep.
Paris. So whether it's gymnastics, whatever it
Yeah.
was, but golf had its piece in a way that
Hmm.
it didn't 30 years ago. And
Yeah.
40
Yeah.
years, God, it's 40 years ago for Mary Lou Retton. That's crazy, right?
That
It's
is
40
that is
years
pretty
ago,
crazy. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but in those days, the golf wasn't a part of that, right?
Yep. Yep. And you're right. The Olympics. That's interesting. You said there were a couple live golfers playing in the Olympics, and I think they did a good job on covers. They never mentioned whether they were on the tour or live golf. They just talked about the country they represented, and like you said, it was actually good for golf to see tour and live guys just kind of playing in the same field and not actually hearing about the controversy of the 2 separate tours. So I thought that was pretty good now that you mention it. So,
Always love having Ed Miller on. He's up at Pine Ridge Classic 5 Golf sponsoring us. You find them out at Baltimore Positive. Hey, man, I hope to see you at an Oriole playoff game somewhere down the line. And
oh, that'd be nice.
enjoy your fall golf. I always love having you on. I'll come see you, visit you soon. And if my wife is going to hit the course, it's going to be yours. Don't tell
Yeah,
RJ, don't tell Mount Pleasant, none of them. But if my wife is going to golf, it's going to be Pine Ridge, honestly.
there you go. Bring her out there. We got some ladies' leagues to keep her active as well. So,
Just get her hitting the ball straight, dude. I'm Nestor. He's Ed. We're WNST AM 1570. Back for more Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.